Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 11 of Isolated 8 podcast. This week I had Eoin Doyle. He's over in Australia at the moment. He's got a bit of a story to tell, in fairness. He was in Hong Kong, so he was in China in the middle of the Hong Kong riots, and then left there to go to Australia, moved to Sydney, middle of the bushfires, and then he is now on COVID-19 lockdown. So he's got good spirits. We had a good crack and a good chat about it. So looking forward to catching up with him again in the future soon. But yeah, it was a good chat, definitely worth a listen. And on other good news as well, today Ailish, who was episode number 9, she was pregnant and now she's had baby. So baby boy Killian, born today, all is good. So happy days on that front. So yeah, have a listen to Eoin and catch you soon. Enjoy.
Yeah, man, and we're off all good. So, Doyle, how you keeping, man?
Yeah, not bad.
I suppose I better introduce you properly as Eoin Doyle, not Doyler. But man, yes. It's been a long time since we spoke. How are you keeping?
Been a very long time. Yeah, been good. Been a few places since we last spoke.
Yeah.
Our last caught up.
And where are you now, right now?
Sydney now. So we moved to Sydney about 6-7 months ago. Moved on at work. Feel like we kind of left the frying pan into the fire, moving from Hong Kong protests into Sydney bushfires, and then
yeah,
this. No, but it's been good. It's been really good. Australia life is good. Beach, very close to the beaches.
Nice.
Sorry, we should go on WhatsApp on my web.
And what's the story kind of with work and stuff there? You said you were working in Hong Kong, and the kind of with work you got to move, or?
Yeah. So when I moved to Hong Kong, I found the company I'm working with now, and we just opened an office here in early 2019. So I moved down here about 7 months ago. So that's good. It's been cool working in a smaller office, trying to kind of set it up.
Yeah.
Well, being part of the setup, essentially.
Yeah.
And it's been cool. It's been an interesting journey. Lucky enough.
And you arrived. Did you arrive in the middle of the bushfires? I suppose not in the middle, but like in and around that. What was because the time frame for that wasn't that?
Yeah. So we did an interesting leave. So our leaving Hong Kong was like literally that. Do you know that picture in Saigon where they're coming onto the helicopter? That felt like what we were doing our last night in Hong Kong. So our flight got delayed. We were supposed to fly out end of September on a Monday. Checked in our bags. As our bags were going off in the conveyor belt, we just see on the screen check-in closed, and that's when the airport closed down for 5 days. So,
wow.
Yeah, so I could see our bags leaving. I just said, "Can you get our bags, please?" And she said, "No, they're gone." So we were still literally all the possessions we had in the world going on that conveyor belt, shipped down to Australia, and our flights got cancelled. So I think we eventually flew out on a Thursday or Friday.
Oh man!
Just staying in hotels.
Just
stayed in the airport for a bit that day. Yes, with no clothes. I had to go. I literally had the clothes I was wearing that day. But the night before that, then we were getting a bit of dinner, and we got out of a taxi outside the hotel we were staying in, and literally every street that we looked at, there was riot police pushing us back in, and we were stuck in the middle of a big protest. And they started firing tear gas canisters and everything, and
madness.
Yeah.
And what was the sensation of that like in terms of kind of like the tear gas? Did you get affected by it? Were you right in the middle, or was you...
Yeah, I mean, we couldn't see it. We were far enough. We were smart enough to kind of try and stay away from the crowd as much as we could, so we couldn't see it. But you could really feel. I'd hate to have been in the middle of it because we could really feel our throats and our eyes start bawling, crying, basically. And your throat went really, really.
Was it
really
you and your missus?
Me and my missus and her brother. Wow. Yeah. So after a few drinks with Chinese riot police, you're kind of shouting Chucky Garlaw back at him and shit.
Well,
after a few pints,
yeah, man. And
too much.
I was looking. I was just literally started having a little look this morning, and my knowledge, like, I thought I was fairly well versed in geography, but my knowledge of paper is fucking shocking, mate. So I was looking there, like, and I was like, no way, I didn't know that, and no way, I didn't know that. Like Hong Kong, I just pictured Hong Kong being an island, and I don't know why. And I think same with North and South Korea. I was like, gee, man, they're not even an island. Like I just had them as an island in my head, you know. So, and again, I can see where you wasn't a million miles away from Wuhan and what's going on now, and you know, from do you know contacts that you've made and friends that you made in Hong Kong? Is it affecting there, or what's the story with COVID-19? And
I wouldn't really trust too many of the numbers coming out of Hong Kong. The numbers on, say, Google Maps or that Johnny Hopkins dashboard saying that Hong Kong isn't too affected, and I don't think it actually is that affected. But you wouldn't really trust all the numbers coming out of there. But there's everyone's saying they're still reading from SARS in 2006, I think it was, or 2009, whatever that was. So they're still reading from that. So no one's allowed outside. You can't go outside without a mask on from the very word go. But even before this, they were like that. I mean, if you had a small cough, sniffle, mask, you had to have a mask on. So they were already kind of geared up, and they were already scarred from SARS and how bad that was. So, like, considering I think it's second or third most densely populated place in the world, the numbers are very, very low. So it's
due to all the PPE that they use every day anyway.
Yeah, and due to the what you might call anal approach to not spreading viruses like that and infections like that. But everything is, like they said, everything is shut down. You can't.
And is Hong Kong a clean place? Like, obviously, we're hearing about fellas eating bats. Do you know what I mean? And then you hear about the markets, and you look at some of the food that tend to be delicacies, or the stereotypes. Anyway, is that a reality, or?
No, Hong Kong's a bit of a melting pot. I mean, it's obviously very influenced from being part of the British Empire. So you've got a very, very Western approach or feel to the place, and then you've also got the local side. You wouldn't really come across bats or anything like that, but you do see meat hanging out in the streets. You do have what's called wet markets, where it's just meat hanging out. You see flies going at the meat and everything, and
that
was
one of my memories from Thailand, man. I went to a market, and you start at the front of the market, and they've got all the beautiful fruit and all the multicolours and enticing you in, and then you go in and like you're looking around, and there's a pungent smell, and I remember I was looking at this kind of shelf tray, whatever it was, and there was fuck all there. It was all black. I was like, what is this? And your man clapped his hands and all the flies just moved. And there was the meat. And I was like, I think I'll leave that off, mate. Yeah. And frogs in baskets and stuff. And the lad I went to Thailand with, he wasn't with me that time going into the market. I'd kind of gone off on my own for a little bit. And then the next day I took him back to the market to show him, and I couldn't go in. I got past the fruit and the smell of the place, and I knew what was coming. There was no surprise. I was like, oh, no, I don't need to go and see that again. Like, it was so fucking horrible.
I mean, we saw when you can eat. So the wet markets you can eat at the top of them. So usually there are 3 or 4 floors. They start with the smelliest stuff. So they start with all the meat and fish, and then it starts going up to the veg and fruit. And then at the top, you'll be able to eat. They'll have small little restaurants in the kind of canteen area. But you literally walk in. I remember my mum came over, and she just kind of commented on it. It was just common to us at that stage. But you see that old Chinese women doing the Asian squat, washing the dishes, and like the water they're washing it in, looks filthy. Like, and like and they're putting the dishes on the floor for them to be dried by someone in a dirty towel. And it is pretty dirty. Who are near you to say which is the best way to live? That's
exactly. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I suppose by our hygiene standards, you look at it like again.
You're not going to find a butcher like you do, say, in like Dunstores or Mahon, where you've got you're not going to get that. You're going to get a meat cleaver that's cut, a sheep that's cut, pig that's cut beef.
How long do you think it took you to get used to that, or how long do you think it kind of until it became the norm for you, I suppose?
Like everyone kind of says in Hong Kong's a very good buffer for Asia. So once you go in, because it's got that Western influence from British Empire, so there are like loads of Western cuisine, loads of Western bars and stuff like that. So it is a very good buffer. So we kind of got, and as well, we lived in a Western area. It's a very expat kind of focused community on Hong Kong Island where we lived. I think you've got about 2 million people living on Hong Kong Island, and I think about 40% are expats. So you've got different regions where the expats are. So we were in the expat
see there,
region.
like I said, I thought Hong Kong was an island, and you're calling it Hong Kong Island. Like, is there water like separating it, or is it?
Yeah, so zoom in on Google Maps. You've got Hong Kong Island.
I know you zoom right in, like, and it kind of.
So Hong Kong Island is the main area, and then you've got Kowloon is the mainland. And that's where it's more Asian and Chinese focus on Hong Kong Island.
Hong Kong Island, I see it there now. I see.
That's where all the banking and finance is centered.
Perfect.
Mainly, and that was the original rock that was taken by the British Empire, and then they started taking.
Did you need to speak? Did you need to learn any of the language? Did you learn any, or was it purely like I know from my time in Lanzarote, the first 4 years I didn't do any. I was lazy. I didn't have to, and then I kind of got into the Spanish, because I grew up a bit, I suppose. But did you need to do any of that there, or?
No, you don't. The only thing you might need it for is taxis, to direct the taxi. So I can say straight Tikoi, Junzhou, Junyao, and Lido is here. Stop. Now that's all I really need to know. Maybe a beer. Pichot is a beer. And I can just about count to 10. But yeah, that's you don't really need it. Again, if you go on then to the mainland where it's Kowloon, that side, which is still Hong Kong, part of the Hong Kong territory, but it's attached to mainland China. Then you go to some places where it's just flat out Cantonese, and there's absolutely no English spoken. But as an expat, you kind of get by. You wouldn't really need it.
Yeah. Okay. And then Australia, how are things in Australia at the moment? They're on how strict are they taking this lockdown? So I've been trying to get I've got a few friends over in Oz at the moment, and even obviously my mum, my sister, and Sarah, my wife's brother James, is over there, and I've been chatting with all of them. But what's your kind of take on things at the moment?
It's weird. I mean, it's just started. The weather has just turned, so it's just started getting a little bit colder past 2 or 3 days. So not a lot of people are out. I didn't notice, but apparently my buddies have said that Australians just kind of hibernate for the winter and don't like going out in the cold and don't like getting outside. So I've seen it now in the past 3 days. It's been really quiet. But before that, everyone was social distancing, but not taking it very, very seriously. I mean, the cafes were still open for takeout. People were queuing up around the corner for cafes to go get coffee.
And was there kind of 2 meters in between, or?
Very lax on it. I mean, even if you went to like the park close to us, Centennial Park is where everyone's been kind of flocking for exercise. But you've seen 90% of people there are just going with a picnic blanket and a picnic bag and just sitting out when they're told that you're only supposed to go for exercise, stay out for exercise. I don't think they're going to close the parks here. I think what they've started to do is start finding people, which is good. So anyone, I've heard stories of people, being stopped in this weekend. Obviously, they're going to be all over the roads, the guards. But you've heard stories of them stopping, asking them why you're outside. If you say shopping, and then check the boot or check for a shopping list or something like that. Check to see is it your closest one. Obviously, exercise is fairly easy to tell if someone's out exercising or not. But I didn't start to dish out $1,000 fines here. It's a good story of how I went for a run down the Bondi and stopped to get a kebab afterwards, and just sitting down eating a kebab outside. He got fined $1,000. Get the kebab after a run.
That was an expensive run. And again, they're kind of similar here now. I think as of tonight, because of the long weekend that's in it, they've given the guards heavier license to kind of. I think now, rather than asking the question, they can arrest you if you're cheeky. They can, fine you. I think it's €500 or something along that line. So a similar sort of kind of value. I've heard as of tonight. I think that's coming in. I've noticed it
because my mother and my parents are obviously in the country, and I don't really know what's happening in the city and the rural or the urban areas. But what's this shit about the Corona Challenge?
I don't know, man. This is a first. What's this?
young fella spitting on people and coughing on people or something.
Oh, for
You heard
fuck's
of
sake!
that?
Well, I've heard of a couple of young fellas that have been arrested, and I heard of a woman. She spat at a guard, and I think she got 4 weeks jail sentence. So I know they're not taking it lightly, but yeah, I'd not heard of it being a challenge or anything. Now, to be honest with you, that's the first I've heard of that. So
My sister said it's something like some social media challenge.
yeah,
Well,
I
I don't
don't
know.
kind
Some
of.
people are coining it as a Corona challenge.
Yeah, potentially. Like I know there's I've just noticed there's a lot more kids around. Yeah, Doyle, I live in a rough and ready part of town, mate. And if there was a
Yeah.
Corona challenge happening, it's going to happen here. Do you know what I mean? They're
Yeah.
going to be all over it, right?
Where are you now?
But I've Mayfield now. I'm off in
Are you
Mayfield.
making it? Oh,
Yeah,
were you
yeah,
making it
yeah.
when we
I
were
was
here?
there, yeah. Well, I've always,
Yeah.
since I've been in Cork, I've been in Mayfield. Yeah, my missus is from here, so
Yeah.
and we're living down in Corriblawn, which has got a reputation potentially, and the next kind of park up has got a reputation for what it has, Ballyvalan, and Ballyvalan down there has got its reputation. So between Ballinderry, Corriblawn, and Ballyvalan, you hear lots of stories, but I'll tell you what, mate, I've lived here now since 2012. I've seen a bit of trouble here and there. I've not had any trouble.
Yeah.
You know, I grew up in these kind of estates anyway. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
corporation
Yeah.
housing, council housing. So it's the norm for me. But yeah, no, I love it. I love the sense of community here, man.
Yeah.
You know, get pissed off with a litter and you see it and it's never going to go. And there's parts of kind of just pathways and alleyways that people go and do litter dumping, and that kind of shit annoys me. But on the whole, the sense of community and location wise, it's ideal. We're 2 minutes from town. I'm on the ring road. I can get onto the link in 2 minutes. There's 2 supermarkets next to me. There's 2 bus routes into town. There's doctors, and everything is handy to us, you know. Like I say, apart from the litter, and some of the little kids can be little fuckers at times. But again, mine are joining them. Do you know what I mean? Mine are in there doing the exact same thing, so I can't argue about it. And I did the same thing. So, you know, it's grand, man. I like it up here. But again, it just seems to have this reputation that I think is probably a bit unfair as well at times. But maybe 20 years ago when the Fob and Gill was called the Fob and Kill.
Yeah, it's probably 1990s, 1980s kind of reputation that it has, really.
Yeah,
You see them, like my local town, I suppose the biggest town, Charleville, where I kind of grew up. You had those estates there as well, more council estates. But as you said, the sense of community in there is actually really, really good. People,
like
95% of people want to build a community in there. You've got.
Yeah, like I can go out my front, literally. I live on a row of 6, and across the road there's a row of 6, and then there's another kind of block of 12 next to us, and another block of 12 there, and that's how it kind of built up, you know. And there's green areas for the kids to play in between as well, and there's no parking outside the houses. There's kind of car park there and a car park down there, so our kids can play out the front with no cars go in or anything like that. So I think that builds community. But literally every neighbour on our row of 12 I'd know and say hello to, and you know, 6 of them, if I needed something, I wouldn't be worried about knocking on their door and asking for it. Do you know what I mean? And they do the same. So you know, that's great. I've got Steve Donovan there. He's been on the show, and I was chatting to him before, and he was like, he's lived on his estate for the last 20 years. His mum and dad's estate, and they probably wouldn't know 6 people on it. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, it is what it is. But I like where I live, man. I enjoy it. I miss the sun, man. That's me. Like, that's my biggest thing, and Sarah knows that. And this has been an eye opener for me. I'm glad that it's coming into our summer now, or it's our spring, and the weather's been good. That's been helpful to sit out in the garden, not stuck in the house while it's pissing rain. You know, but it's But yeah, the sun is what I miss the most. And Australia is something we've spoke about. We've spoke about that multiple times. And me going back to Spain is a viable option. Sarah's not so much, just because of the language for the kids. And I know they pick it up. But our oldest boy's got Asperger's, and just trying to explain his additional needs in Spanish would be quite tough. So I think kind of that's why Australia became a conversation, because of the language, you know, and the climate. So again, we might not get to go fucking anywhere ever again, mate. We just don't know.
I might be fucking stuck here too.
Like there's a fella I know there, and I'm not going to give any names away or anything. He's a fella at work, and he's highly respected, quite high up in the corporation, you know. Stuck in New Zealand, man. Went to visit family in New Zealand, stuck in New Zealand. Fuck knows when he's getting back.
You
know, it's like there's no getting away from it. So,
we literally, I mean, we can't leave here, because if we leave, I mean, I'm afraid to, if you go swim too far out, you won't be able to get fucking back in, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
It's not that bad, to be honest. Like, there's no planes, you can't see any planes flying out or flying in.
Like here in Cork, obviously we're near enough to the flight path and stuff, and you'll all see it, but there's nothing. And when you do see a plane, you fucking notice it.
You look, yeah. We've been doing the same because we live. I mean, we're not close-ish to the flight path or close beach to us is. If we take a walk out to the beach, you literally once you see a plane, you're like, oh fuck, there's a plane. It's something you haven't seen.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we're Australia is good for us now. I think. Visa-wise, it could be a little bit difficult for us moving forward with this everything that's going on. They've basically they came out, I think 3 days ago or 4 days ago. I think the Irish government go mad over it, but basically come out and said all temporary visa holders, which is us, basically go home. He phrased it a little bit better. He was like, look, if you don't have any prospect of work, prospect of work, get out. Which I can understand their point because we don't get. They have announced the whole kind of social stimulus package like Ireland has. If you lose your job, you get a certain amount of money every week, but we won't get any of that if we do lose our jobs. So anyway, we're fine. I mean, I'm lucky enough in my role. We're still hiring people. We do consultancy services, and we're still hiring grads and just training them online. So we're still, I won't say we haven't been affected, but we're kind of operating at about 75% capacity.
Are you doing any of that training online?
So no, I'm just the kind of more business side, so sales side of it. So I just work with getting new clients on board. So that's still.
I'm trying to train people online at the moment. So I've got two new hires that started. So I'm now Bill Morgan, right?
Oh,
I'm Bill Moore now, right? Yeah. So I'm. I run. Well, yeah, more of the BDR team, I suppose. He ran everything. We were all doing sales, but when James Timmerman was there doing that, again, it was just I look after the BDR team. There's 7 of us that look after EMEA for endpoint management. In Quest still, so grand. But yeah, I had a new hire start there a couple of weeks ago, and I trained him in remotely. That was my first attempt at doing it, and it went all right. It was flying. And this time now, I've got 2 new guys that start in, and I'm training the 2 of them. And again, it's all remote, and it's going well. This 4-day week this week and 4-day week next week has kind of thrown our timeline of when they get on the floor and cracking on a bit. But yeah, no, it's good, man. I'm enjoying it.
How are Quest hiring? Are they like kids from university, or are they going on the ad track?
More kind of I for the BDR side of things, if we haven't had really kind of a grad, it's not a grad scheme or program or anything like that. I've been taking people that have come from potential kind of, they may have worked at Vox Pro in a previous kind of selling on call center roles, a couple of fellas from Abtran, ZVAS, them kind of places. I've been taking people from there because they're not afraid to pick up the phone and go for it, right? And that's the hard part, isn't it?
It's burnt by fire in those places. Like that's where, like,
and if you're asking the closing question 50 times a day, and then you're not afraid to ask them questions. I remember, and I quote you quite often, right? I remember you writing on the board years ago, if Google has the balls to ask to be your default browser, then you should have the balls to ask for the budget. And then you quoted Abraham Lincoln written underneath, and that always stuck in my head. And I actually still use that to this day with the new hires, man. That phrase: if Google will ask to be your default browser, don't be afraid to ask for budget.
No, I think it was Internet Explorer, isn't it? If Internet Explorer,
maybe it was that long ago.
I do remember that.
Yeah,
fuck yeah,
that was a long time ago, man.
Jesus Christ, I can't remember how long. How long was that? 7 years ago.
2013-ish, yeah, would have been. I left in 2013. I started in 2012, left in 2013, and came back again then. So
you came back again, didn't you?
No, sorry, no, tell a lie. I arrived in Cork in 2012. 2013, I arrived at Dell, and then I left then at around 2015 and came back in 2017. So yeah, it would have been 7 years ago, yeah.
Because I started in February 2014 and finished in April 2016, 17. 16, I think, yeah, because I left it. Yeah, fuck.
And what's your crack on the sports side of things now? You were very sporty back then.
Yeah, I was still playing hurling and rugby up to not very well, to be honest. I mean, hurling and rugby in Hong Kong wasn't exactly. Rugby was decent.
Yeah.
Hurling was about 7 of us in Hong Kong. It was easy enough to be the county player in Hong Kong, to represent Hong Kong. But I kind of started here. The season started back for about 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and then I went to pot again, obviously. So likely they won't. I'm not sure. Likely they won't kick off again this year. So I've just been
sports like rugby and very contact sports. Do you think they're going to be affected long term? Like, when can we get back to, because I don't think as soon as this social distancing kind of is over, I don't think people are going to want to be. I've been asking a couple of fellas about the jiu-jitsu. Yeah, like, I don't know. Like, even me playing soccer, which is not a massively contact sport, but a contact sport. I'm like, I've not been able to play for a good few weeks now. I'm probably it's going to take a longer time to get back to fitness at my age now. And I'm thinking, well, I just can't play golf. I don't have to touch anyone. It's still a social thing, but I'm out in the open space. Do you think, I don't know, it's just a thought that I have that it could potentially take a lot longer for those sports to get back in than it will for golf and cricket.
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of listened to a couple of podcasts on this whole social PTSD that people may experience after. That's what they're talking about. People might have essentially the equivalent of PTSD after this is all done, from a social perspective. But I remember, I don't know, was it as serious? Maybe it wasn't, but the measures were nearly as serious in the country in Ireland, foot and mouth. Were you here? Were you in Ireland? Foot and mouth?
I wasn't. No, we were over in Lanzarote at that time, man. But yeah, I remember the kind of.
I mean, look, it obviously wasn't as serious, nowhere near it. But there was no touching of people. They weren't coming out and saying that you had to socially distance or anything. But you couldn't shake hands. You weren't allowed to do any of that. You were disinfecting yourself everywhere you went. Every step you went, especially in the country, because obviously the people in the country financially were feeling it the worst, losing their stock. But I mean that came and it went, and it lifted pretty quickly. I do remember like not being able to shake hands with people, not being able to really touch money, people wearing gloves, disinfecting your hands the whole time. Disinfecting your shoes, car tires getting disinfected.
Yeah, I remember them driving through the kind of
mats. Yeah, so obviously it wasn't anywhere near as serious as what's going on at the moment, but the social distancing side of the intimacy in terms of interaction, that was similar-ish.
Maybe we'll all turn into Hong Kong, mate, and China with the masks and the gloves all the time, and that becomes a norm now. Do you know? It wouldn't surprise me, like especially in France and Italy and Spain, where they're highly affected, and I can't see them kissing each other 4 times on the cheek to say hello. Do you know?
Yeah. I mean, Hong Kong is. I mean, if you believe the numbers, Hong Kong is doing very well in it. And the masks are. I think the whole thing with the masks is like the Hong Kong theory on it is you wear a mask if you're sick, not to not get sick.
To save yourself, to save everyone else.
To save everyone else. The whole theory behind the mask is when you're sick, put on a mask. Because I don't know how effective they actually are.
Yeah, and again, here people are wearing masks thinking that they're looking after themselves when really.
You
know what I don't get about the gloves as well? I'm finding it hard, and maybe you can give us a bit of advice here because you've been in a place that it's the nut right. If I'm putting on gloves to go into a supermarket because I don't want to be picking up stuff that other people who may have coronavirus has picked up, what happens then when I go to get my wallet? That I'm not going to disinfect when I go into the house, or do I have to disinfect it when I go into the house to get my wallet out? Do you know what I mean? Like, I've got it on my gloves. Do I take my gloves off to get my wallet out?
Well, Robbie, do you remember Robbie told a very good story of when he was getting a market one day. Robbie told the story of I think maybe his brother, of someone was wearing gloves making a pizza or something, and his brother went to hand him the money for the pizza, and he didn't take off the gloves and took the money with the gloves on, and he goes, no. Give the money back. I don't want it because you've just taken the money with the. What's the point in the gloves? Really, what's the point of the gloves then? If that's the case.
Yeah.
And I like there's no gloves in Hong Kong. Rachel just bought these gloves now. I refuse to use them. She wore them in the supermarket the other day and picked up a head of broccoli, which all the fruit and veg is out free on its own, and she picked up the broccoli and put it in the trolley in a bag, obviously. And I was like, how many people have touched that broccoli already today? You know, it's been loaded off somewhere.
And if you've all got gloves on to protect yourself, you're still carrying everything on the glove, right? You're just protecting your own hands.
Yeah.
So, and then if I'm taking my wallet out, I'm putting that dirt onto something that's going to come into my house that I'm probably not, you know, and you can take your gloves off and take that out of your pocket. I don't know. It's just.
I think a lot of them, to be honest, in my opinion, a lot of the measures are just an additional kind of preventative measure. Maybe the gloves may help us more, but they're not going to absolutely stop.
Yeah, to me, I'm beginning to just wash my hands when I'm like, I take a hand sanitizer everywhere with me, like the spray alcohol ones. That when I get one of them, when I get back into the car, then I'll wash my hands before I even take the key out of my pocket to open the door, because I don't know, it's all
You're
mad.
driving now?
Yeah, man.
Oh, hold on.
Fully grown adult, bro.
Oh, nice.
Fully grown adult. Eventually got my license, man, at 37 years of age.
Nice.
So yeah, I was forced into it. Like I used to drive everywhere in Lanzarote anyway, and then when we had the kids, Sarah was just like, "Listen, dude, get a license." I was like, what's the point? Like, I've never. You need to get a license. So I just took 9 years to do that. That was all, and she did all the driving. It was fucking great.
I remember Sully picked you up, did he?
Sully used to pick me up all the time, man. Yeah. I'm trying to get Sully on for the last 4 weeks. He's unbelievably busy. So it's with work and that he actually is. So,
did he get out?
No, that's his dad's.
Oh, is it his dad's?
Yeah, he helped build it. Like, it's a lovely gaff out in Crosshaven. Yeah.
Is it in Cross? I was thinking that. Yeah. And what about Steve at the Baba?
Not yet. Not that I've heard of yet. No, no baby as of yet. So I think even last week he was chatting with the nurse. Had said they think it could be another week. You know, so yeah, it'll come, man. It'll come. What a time, huh? What a time! And just before we finish up, Doyle, we're at 30 minutes here now, mate, and I like to keep them at that kind of time, right? And then I think I cut you off my own fault, but you were telling us when you moved to Australia, what was the story with the bushfires and stuff there? Did you get affected with that? Because that's something I'd like to hear about if we can.
Yeah, I mean, we weren't affected because the least damaging impact of the bushfires was the smoke. You know, that was our pain in Sydney was smoke. You know, you couldn't really go outside or couldn't go for a run that much, but. We took a drive afterwards. Took a drive down south after it had kind of gone. You know, after we had a douse of rain and everything had gone out, and it was pretty horrific to see. It's pretty horrible when you hear about volunteer firemen dying, firefighters dying, and women dying. Yeah, it's pretty hard. A lot of people here in Sydney who are, relatives or volunteer firefighters, they're generally not paid as well. You would assume they're getting something from the government, but no, it's generally not paid. A lot of local people who are seasonal work that can do this during the bushfire season. It's pretty horrendous.
And what's the state of play now? Are these is there vegetation again? Is it still all charcoal and burnt?
Oh, it's crazy! It's all green again. Within 2 weeks, it's completely green. There's some sense to be given to what some of the locals or some of the maybe indigenous people say about letting it burn and this happened the whole time. And they'll always go on about saying 200 years ago when there was no people here, this happened and they went out. But you also have to kind of bring it back to reality, saying there's now 28.5 million people here. And if you want to live here and continue urban living, you have to adjust the way you live to kind of accommodate, because you're not going to stop the bushfires. So it's how do you kind of change your way of living, your urbanization, bushfire region areas, because there's people building houses. They're cutting down a couple of trees, and the gum trees that are cutting down are incredibly flammable. They go up really quickly. And then the leaves that they have, especially, you hear about this, can't remember the actual term for it, it's called canopies, so like the fire will go over your head. When firefighters are fighting it, it'll jump across the canopy, and next minute you're surrounded by it. You've seen a few videos. But what they're doing in some of the rural areas is they're actually literally just cutting down a couple of trees, making a plantation, a plot of land, and having all these trees surrounding them. It's,
so when that goes up, they're in trouble then.
Yeah, in serious trouble. And the rate and how quick the fires go. Look, I haven't really only been here 6 months, so I don't know a whole pile. But from what we saw over the last couple of months was fairly horrific.
Madness. I hope it gets better for you, mate. You've had some fucking run of it the last kind of 12 months.
Yeah, it was good.
Hong
Good,
Kong riots and bushfires, man.
good to get
And now
the
fucking coronavirus. Don't go swimming in the sea. You're definitely getting done by a shark, bud.
1 in 28 million chance it'll have to be me.
Yeah. Well, listen, man, it was really lovely to talk to you. Really good to catch up, man. Thanks very much for doing this. And very insightful as usual, man.
Yeah, podcast is great, buddy. I was listening to a few of them. They're very good.
Good. Again, for me, man, it's just something to do in this time, you know.
Yeah.
And something I've been wanting to do, and I thought, you know what, there's no time like the present now. I've got no excuses really, you know. So yeah, we'll just see how it goes, man. Like if it doesn't take off and it doesn't go anywhere, you know. But for me, I've been so social. I've spoke to so many people that I've not spoke to in ages, and now we'll try and keep in contact. You know, so it's been beneficial for that, if nothing else. So all good, man.
Yeah, good stuff. Well, let's not leave it this long to catch up next time.
Yeah, that's it, man. Stay safe. I hope it gets better for you, and love to the missus, and we'll catch up soon.
Cheers, mate. Say hello to all the family. Talk soon. Cheers.
Peace out.